Good afternoon, my name is Ryan Lanley, and today I will be presenting on backcountry recreation and its decline within the United States. Outdoor recreation is a very vital part of health and happiness for an urban society, especially as it becomes more industrialized. So, getting out into nature, especially in the backcountry where it's less touched and more natural, is a very vital part of maintaining that happiness that comes from escaping from the urban environment and allowing you to reconnect with nature. This has been developing since the turn of the 20th century. So, throughout the 20th century, hiking, camping, backpacking, and other backcountry activities have increased dramatically in popularity, coming to a peak in the 1990s at its most popular. However, in the last few decades, the popularity of hiking and backpacking and other backcountry activities has actually started to decline, at least in the younger generations. Older generations, such as the baby boomers, are continuing to still head out into the wilderness, mostly due to how they were raised, the wealth they were able to occur throughout their beginning of their lives, and security of mindset they were able to develop, since they were born in the post-World War II era, able to develop a sense of security and prosperity that has continued into their later lives, taking them out into the wilderness. However, younger generations, the rise of technology, have been pulled away from wanting to head out into the wilderness, since they aren't able to get a sense of relief and peace from being out in the wild, since they are still connected to the urban setting through the advancement of technology. Heading into my literature review, the first article of research I researched and developed was from Schultes and Moore, published in 2011. They really focused on how children have stopped attending national parks, and they believe it is from the increase of use of electronic media. However, from the research they were developing and conducting, they actually found that that wasn't true, that the children's use of national parks hasn't been declining. The overall trend of use of national parks has decreased, but the same percentage of children attending national parks is in the same proportions as it was when national park visitations was at its peak. So in the 1990s, the same percentage of kids attending national parks is the same as it is today. Continuing on to Young's article from 2014, talks about backcountry recreation, how technology has been embedded with it and has pulled people away from wanting to head out into the wilderness. So, outdoor recreation has been decreasing the last few years due to technology filtering in through it. So, as older generations continue to head out into the wilderness, more and more modern technology is being developed to help support them in their endeavors. That has pulled away and alienated the younger generations, since it's taken out the challenge of heading into the wilderness and roughing it. So, younger generations are feeling alienated, disliking heading out into the wilderness, and they're decreasing younger generations' use of heading out into the backcountry. The next article, published by Wilson in 2015, talks about the baby boomers and Generation X and their relationship with technology and their relationship in heading out into the wilderness. Baby boomers being very prosperous and living in a time of security in the United States when they were growing up, developed a mindset of being adventurous and having a go-get-em attitude of them believing they could do whatever they possibly put their mind to. So, as they've retired and they've accrued that wealth throughout their life, they've still wanted to head out into the wilderness, exploring, being adventurous. Meanwhile, Generation X grew up in a time of less prosperity and security within the United States, so they developed a nihilistic mindset and with a lower capacity for risk. As they've retired and hit older ages, didn't really want to head out into the wilderness as much, since they didn't have the wealth to do so, nor the adventurous mindset that the baby boomer generation had. Furthermore, heading into White's article published in 2014, it's talking about backcountry recreation increasing overall in popularity but decreasing in the more rugged aspects of it. This is due to the baby boomer generation still heading out into the wilderness as they aged, but they are sticking with easier recreation activities such as hiking, camping, while the more rugged experiences such as backpacking and primitive camping has decreased. And this is due to older generations not being able to continue doing those activities, while the gear and materials that help the baby boomer generation engage in less strenuous activities has deterred the younger generations from heading out into the wilderness to accomplish the harder activities such as backpacking and primitive camping. That takes us to my case study, which was also published by Schultes, but in 2015, and it was focused on New Zealand outdoor enthusiasts. And he found 4 main themes from his research and interviews. The first theme being technology used for recreation is embedded within everyday recreation invisibly. So, people engaging in recreation weren't noticing that almost everything they were using was still technology. They believed it was necessary and didn't realize that, yes, the boots, the clothing, the backpacks, the camping gear was all considered technology since they viewed it as necessary. Furthermore, his second main theme was that even the materials and technology they were using, they only saw the positive sides of that technology. Hiking boots, GPSs, only saw as a way to make you more comfortable, make sure you were safe while you were hiking so you wouldn't get lost, not seeing how it could actually pull you away from it being engaged in nature. Thirdly, the outdoor recreationists that Schultes did research and study found that they didn't realize that they were actually using technology, since the boots, the gear, backpacks that they were using were considered old-fashioned, since their parents, their grandparents, when they were recreating, would still have to use those materials. It wasn't until it was pointed out by the researchers that the enthusiasts that were being asked these questions actually agreed and actually thought about that, yes, they were using technology. So, it takes us into the fourth main theme that he found, that only others ever over-relied upon technology. So, when it was pointed out to the outdoor enthusiasts, they never thought they were over-relying upon newer technologies. They only thought other people over-relied it. And they all had stories about how they knew someone who always wanted the best, most comfortable gear that would allow them to do almost anything they would want in the wilderness. So, this takes me into my personal stance and what I've seen personally while recreating in that backcountry. So I started my outdoor recreation activities at a fairly young age with my father and his friends, who are all Generation X, camping and backpacking with them. They did come from that Generation X, so they didn't grow up with the modern technologies that we had today. So they were able to still head out and enjoy the wilderness and still get a sense of rugged feeling from it, which I developed also growing up through that. I then continued my outdoor recreation heading into the Boy Scouts. Entering the Boy Scouts was more around more millennials and Gen Z kids, so more comfort materials were being used, more modern, better sleeping pads, hiking boots, backpacks. It made it a little bit easier and a little bit more comfortable to engage in these outdoor recreations. And as I aged through the Boy Scouts, more and more Gen Z kids came about into my troop. Therefore, more kids were bringing cell phones, iPads, music players to listen to music and disengage from nature. So they weren't really engaging in the aspect of outdoor recreation. They were still connected back home, talking to friends that weren't on the trips, listening to music, and not really enjoying nature while they were out there. So, from my research, I realized that what I was experiencing was the three different generations and how they interacted with technology and nature. So, being pulled more and more out of connecting from the rugged aspect of nature and being able to reset yourself as more and more technology became available and useful out in the wilderness. So, a few future considerations and solutions to this are presented here. Technology has been increasing, making backcountry recreation easier for older generations, since they're the ones continuing increasing the trend of popularity in backcountry recreation. It makes sense that technology is developing around older generations to support them. However, from that same technology, younger generations are being alienated due to them not feeling able to disconnect and connect to nature while out in the backcountry. So, the peace that was found in outdoor recreation, out in the wilderness, is being lost due to how embedded technology has become within outdoor recreation. So, a few solutions to this. The first solution I present is the elimination of easy access to outdoor recreation, such as parks and other things like that within cities. However, this would force people out into the wilderness, but it's not really feasible due to eliminating the easy access points would pull a lot of people away from even getting anything from outdoor recreation, since many people that don't recreate in the backcountry go to parks to feel some of that nature aspects because they don't have the time, the money, due to their socioeconomic status to actually get out into the wilderness. So it's not feasible to remove parks because it would eliminate too many opportunities for people to head out into the and enjoy some sort of outdoor recreation. Second solution that I've come up with is creating more opportunities for people to head out into the outdoors. So this would include creating more programs, associations, organizations, or just groups that take people out into the wilderness and guide them while still allowing them to be safe and secure, but could also help eliminate some of the disconnect from nature by removing phones while still maintaining security and safety of all the guests so people could really engage into the wilderness. This would be more costly. It would take a lot of money to organize nonprofit groups to do this, or even a lot of money for people to join these groups, so that once again would eliminate lower socioeconomic groups from attending these organizations. However, I still think with enough money, creating these groups would be a very valuable solution, and it's definitely a better solution than eliminating easy access points into outdoor recreation. So, in conclusion, backcountry recreation is very vital to the health and happiness of an urban society, especially as it becomes more and more industrialized. So, older generations have been continuing to head out into the wilderness to escape. So the rise of technology to increase and stay with them to allow them to continue recreating has alienated the younger generations, since they're not finding that same rugged aspect and feel of heading out into the wilderness. So the solution to this would be finding a way to balance technology with being disconnected while in the wilderness. So no group is alienated from wanting to head into the wilderness, but it still maintains the spirit of the outdoors, especially within recreation, so it allows people to find what they want to do in the outdoor recreation.